The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Before I proceed any further, I crave leave to extend my most cordial, heartfelt, humble, respectful, and sincere greetings to all those millions of people who have been mourning on this particular day. A moment ago, I uttered and cited a passage from the Psalms, precisely from Psalm 23 of the modern version of the Holy Bible. This is no doubt found in the Torah, the sacred book, from which the Old Testament has come into existence. But also there are numerous passages in various other parts of the Holy Bible, including the New Testament. And although I am neither a theologian, and my knowledge on the Holy Bible is limited considerably, yet there are verses like, "Blessed are those who seek after righteousness, they shall be satisfied." Or even, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." Or even, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God," are found even in the New Testament of the Holy Bible, precisely in the Gospel according to St. Matthew, in the modern translation, chapter 5. When Jesus, known as the Sermon on the Mount, invites people to become meek, righteous, and no doubt peace-loving. All these elements were fulfilled in this particular human being who was born some 88 years ago in a place in Argentina. And this morning, according to the Vatican or the Italian or the Western European time, breathes his last around at 7:35 ante meridian, or in the morning, leaving behind his legacy, his memories for those who believe that he was not merely a righteous man, but a God-fearing man who did not merely preach, but also committed himself in service, even in true service, of humanity as a whole. Pope John the Pope, I beg your pardon, Pope Francis, the successor of Pope John Paul II and Pope Francis, was elected to become the head of the Roman Catholic Church in the year 2013 and breathed his last this morning on the 21st April 2025. This day is in fact also Memorial Day for many members of the Commonwealth, because on this particular day, the princely brother, or a prince who later became George VI, the Emperor of India, gave birth to a little baby girl who became one of the longest reigning monarchs in history, known as Queen Elizabeth II. This is also a special day because, according to the Roman Catholic and many of the other Christian calendars, happens to be Easter Monday. As Easter, which began according to the same calendars yesterday, continues for 50 days until the day of Pentecost, initially known as Shavuot in the Torah. Pope Francis chose this particular name, Francis, because he wanted to follow the example of Saint Francis of Assisi, who was initially born, or who had initially been born into a wealthy family, but perhaps remembering those marvelous words uttered by Jesus Christ himself to that particular young man who came and asked what was required of him to inherit eternal life, to which Jesus responded initially by saying, "Follow the commandments which you know." And then this young man replies to Jesus by saying, "From my very youth up," and I'm quoting, "I obeyed all these commandments." Jesus, looking at him, loved him with the purest divine love one can ever comprehend, and said, "You lack one thing. Sell all your property, give the money to the poor, come and follow me. St. Francis of Assisi proved this, and as did Pope Francis, who himself committed his whole life in service of the needy, even in service of the poorest of the poor, notwithstanding the opposition he had to face in his own country. Even as a young man, as a young priest, as a bishop, and later even the archbishop, before becoming the Pope. This day is a memorial day, but this day is also a day which should remind us not merely of the Pope's legacy, or I should say the late Pope's legacy, but also of his teaching in living the life of meekness, modesty, peace-loving, and righteousness. Craving leave once again to extend my heartfelt and most respectful regards to all the mourners, and especially those who knew His Holiness, Pope Francis, in person. I bid all of you a very solemn and blissful night, and a very blissful season of Easter on this particular night in my country. Thank you, and God bless.